All right, so I'm using the little thing tree to hold the camera today because I want to start doing videos that show the actual work done. So this is for my buddy Robert, the plumber. So I think on these I go low. You can see that. Oh, I can't really see it with my hands in the way. So what I usually do is I come out this way, about right there. That's where I'm going to tie the lead into, and then it gets tucked down there, and then the whole thing I'm going to go ahead and put the reverse surround cone as first seen by Sundown on their SD V3s. So they don't use them anymore, but we can still buy them from Tien Lee. And if you decide to buy them, make sure you get the one that's double stitched, because sometimes the ones that aren't stitched tend to come delaminated. So, but they use a really nice soft rubber surround that I think was first saw on the TC Sounds honeycomb carbon fiber, which were saw in the Lightning Audio Storm series, and then later in the TC Sounds OEM woofers that they built with a lot of those cones. So, but yeah, I don't like to edit, so I'm just gonna make the video, and then if you can't see shit, then you can't see shit. That's the way it goes. I'll do my best to keep you guys in mind as I'm doing this video. So, but basically I just winded it around. You can trim that off if you want, but I don't know. There's no real need for it. And then I just squeeze it real good with the lineman pliers. So apparently next door somebody's got their car alarm. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but it's fucking annoying. So, but I did want to talk about materialism. So I remember as a kid watching the Charlie Brown Christmas, and one of the things they talk about, by the way, I find Charlie Brown very depressing. The whole thing with his sister Lucy was basically me and my blockhead with his sister, and my sister used to do the same exact thing with the football, and she just thought she was so brilliant and funny that I believed my sister every time. So I'm just scoring here very lightly just to cut through the Nomex tape, which is also called spun lace Nomex. Then you want to pull it down. You don't want to pull too hard, because the leads will break. But these are copper. This is, by the way, this is the a Dyer Brahma Mark IV, which I don't know whose idea that was, but they actually had reduced the Brahma from a 3-inch down to a 2-inch, 2.5-inch, and it's not the best way to do things, but that was right when Perry bought the brand and then ran it into the ground. But anyways, I use it here. This is the SD V2 from Sundown, which is a non-vented motor. Some people prefer that. MTX did it for a few years, where basically the idea is that there's no venting, so the pressure swishes back past the coil, and in many ways has a higher velocity that way to get rid of the heat. I don't know if it works. Most people do the venting because mostly because of surface area. So the more surface area you have on that pole, right, like you see in like DC and some lower to base stuff, that surface area is really what helps get rid of the heat. So, but and the mass, the amount of mass that you have is what helps absorb it. So, but anyways, I'm just doing a little bit outside. It's a happy little tinsel. So, and of course it is difficult for me with these big sausage fingers, but I seem to manage okay. But this one I'll be doing the same thing that I did on the L7 I did yesterday, which was CA on the bottom, because it's not a really high-powered woofer. Some companies like Rockford, when they were building them in America, they were actually, what do you call it? They were building them completely with CA. So make sure your tip is clean. Helps make better contact. Get that started. There we go. This is just simple brazing that you see, or that you practice with typically softer metals than steel. Steel typically has a higher melting point, and so you need to use like welding, which is like just a portable arc. But so materialism, Charlie Brown. Materialism is really the worship of false idols, if you want to get into that business. And I remember seeing, I think it was Wycliffe Jean, showing off his exotic car collection to a bunch of Haitians. He's from Haiti, which is the most ridiculous thing to me. In his defense, he says that he has to keep up an image, and I'm like, I'm not sure why he has to keep up that image, but okay. I'm not really going to do it. I changed my mind, which I do all the time because I'm a girl. I think the cone's actually going to sit high enough; it's not going to really affect that. And these are flexible enough. See, you just bend that down. The cone should slide over that, and this is going to be encapsulated with epoxy as well. So, but anyways, materialism. There's a lot of pitfalls involved in that. First of all, you're competing with some of the richest people on the planet that have had generations. Plus, it's not fulfilling. We as humans, again, are most happy when we're pursuing a goal, and typically that goal, when you put yourself in other shoes, you just want to help other people the way that you want to be helped. So if we work as a team, even in small teams, like that's basically what a marriage is a team of two. You can accomplish much greater things than you can alone, especially if you're alone home drinking in front of the TV. So some of my single friends, that's a shout out to them. But let me see right up at the other ones. So probably back in, I think, 06, I had, maybe it was 05, anyways, I had met up with a guy named Bernie Brashears, who, I forget how I met him. I think it was actually through somebody at work. So I worked for a company called Speed Fam, which was there. Let me check again. About that. I'm just eyeballing that, by the way, based on the thickness of the top plate, which I believe in this is 15 millimeter. So that should be about right. But anyways, there was a guy at work who was spouting off about Patriot stuff. And I had actually been exposed to that when I was in the military in Hawaii, specifically under the a couple of Patriots that were vendors on base. And they invited me to some stuff in Hawaii. One of them was this lady. It was called the How to Cook a Vulture. It was basically how to fight the IRS, which is a stupid argument to make. And as we've learned later on that you're gonna mess with the bull, you're gonna get the horns. So the best thing you can do is undermine the bull, or basically get out of the jurisdiction of the bull. That's the best defense, is if you don't want to support that machine. So, but anyways, the guy at work was talking some talk, and I was really interested in what he was saying. And there was a book that was called Strategic Withdrawal by Bernie Brashears. And it was basically a way to opt out of the system, and how to do that legally and affordably, and why the argument for it is. And so back then, this was in 98, I'm just spinning that to distribute the CA pretty evenly, and then I find the leads back again, and then I'll spray it with accelerator. So really, the accelerator just accelerates the process. What the CA really cures from is oxygen. So it's what's known as aerobic. So, and then once that's set, I can pull it out. And then sometimes I'll even spray the bottom. So just to give it a little boost on the curing process. This CA that I use, it is a slow cure type. Technically, it's quote unquote super thick. It's not a gel. Typically on the gels that you see the speaker builder guys sell is anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 CPS. This is 1,500. which some guys balk at, but it's super affordable, and it works just fine. So I don't use CA the way that a lot of the other builders use. They use it in the triple joint as a staple. I just use it more as a tack weld to keep the epoxy from leaking. So, but to each his own, you know. But anyways, so I met Bernie, and Bernie hinted on some of the stuff about basically forming your own church, which I was always a fan of since I listened to the Beastie Boys. And there's a line that MCA talks about having his own religion. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's a great idea. Like, you know, because I was tired of the other religions bossing me around, you know. Other people, you know, want to force a religion down you, and it's like, dude, that's not a good fit. Like, it doesn't ring all the bells in my chakra. So, but so anyways, I went to that and met him, took a seminar. It was great. Basically, they're talking about the corporation soul, which is different than a normal type of corporation. Corporation soul is the type of, it's more like a, in a way, it's a sort of like was it not a kingdom, but like a monarchy, where the idea is that if you become incapacitated or die, then there's a line of ascension, someone to take your place. So from what I've read, this is how the archdioceses of most major metropolitan areas for the Catholic Church are formed. And you can, what's great is about public record is you can look at their documentation and sort of get an idea of how to craft your document, and then it sort of becomes a treaty between you and the state. It's not that you need their permission to exist, but it's nice to just let them know what you're doing. And when they approve it, they're basically approving that. And you don't need to put all those words in there. You can just, you know, there's a lot more minimalism I've learned that you can do if you don't want the state in your business. But typically, the state in team with the IRS encourage you to go through all these hoops that they say you need to, but you don't. They encourage you, I should say. But it's a setup, of course, to get you to agree to things that are not in your best interest and are more for them to manage you. So, but so anyways, talking to Bernie, he talked about a vow of poverty. So I've taken my vow, and like many vows, it's good to review it on a daily basis or even a moment-to-moment basis. You have to look at the purpose of a vow. Typically, a vow is a sacrifice to do something that you normally could not achieve, you know, on your own will or your own accord. And it's to, you know, achieve something greater. I forget the name of the movie. If you ever want to see something great, what he did, 9.5 Weeks, Mickey Rourke. So Mickey Rourke does a great film about it's the St. Francisco, and it just really captures the spirit of not only what Christianity can be, but the teachings that Christ promoted. And it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody, but there is something greater and higher in sacrificing your life in that manner for something greater, to achieve something greater. And in many ways, that repeats itself in life all the time. You're listening to this video, and you're the one that you're your dad's sperm that made it. If you think about that, all the other sperms died, so that you could live. You know, in a way that, you know, you don't think about it like that, but that's exactly what it is. So, but this cycle of life happens all the time, and so, you know, not everybody is going to have the ability or the discipline to sacrifice their lives in that way, or be driven. I have a different backstory, but I don't want to talk about that right now. So, but so anyways, so I made a vow of poverty, of course, which is I guess would be, it's I don't want to say it's a bad idea, but it's definitely not the norm for somebody that works in a luxury item business, for lack of a better word. Industry is a better word. Not sure if you can see that. No, it's off camera a little bit. So I'm just wrapping it around. Typically I like to go behind. So, and then I'm just sort of gauging it of where it's going to lay down. You don't want to do it in the joint because that's where you're going to solder. And if that gets hard, that becomes a flex point. So you want to make sure this is flexible all the way up to where the encapsulation is for the epoxy. So, but the vow of poverty. You know, I want to be different than other people, and I want to achieve greater things than most people. As I learned in my sales training for Excel, if you want what other people don't, you have to be willing to do things other people won't. So always look into industries that are not approached by most people, or people think are gross. Like plumbers make a really good fucking living because they deal in poop. Waste management is a billion-trillion-dollar business. That's because most people don't want to deal with it. So, not saying that's for everybody, but there's definitely it's worth looking at, as every industry needs good, responsible people that are honest and caring. So, but the world needs that in general. So, but so my vow of poverty, again, it's about the purpose that it serves. And really, it's to get you to see the truth about materialism and about how people become corrupted, even on such a low base. I encounter a lot of this many times when people are like, they want to throw money at me, and I'm like, not everybody is a whore, but that's the mentality that they teach in business, or that's or rewarded, is that sort of predatory, just take the money and shut the fuck up sort of mentality. Sort of like Dick Cheney and the 9/11 wives. So, but and most people take that money and they shut the fuck up. So, but let me do the old squeezeroo on these. The squeezeroo is like it's not necessary, but I do like it because it's like probably my OCD. Remember that you're always managing OCD. You can't conquer OCD. So, but you can manage it. Squeeze. But that's one of the reasons why I gave up. Also because the bank took my fancy truck and all that stuff. But I realized that I'm much more vulnerable than I want to be. And when you're into that materialism stuff, it can eat you alive. Now, I know that's not in my best interest if my goal is to make money selling woofers, but that's, again, I'm really just using the selling the woofers part to feed my family and also fulfill a lot of my hobby goals that I have where, this is just fun. I'm good at it, and I like it, and I understand it, and it's always rewarding to be good at something. But yeah, it does. The vow of poverty does kind of get in the way sometimes, but I want to be pure of heart, and there's many pitfalls to that they don't talk about. Two things I want to talk about, which is number one, there's an old Randy Travis song called "Points of Light." Beautiful song, classic, timeless. It's wonderful. Unfortunately, it was hijacked by the Bush administration, or I should say Bush Senior. And I don't know if maybe he felt a guilty conscience, or maybe it was a cover for opium. By the way, he was and is the opium guy, and he also killed Kennedy. So, but do your research on that one. Don't take it from me. But look at Bill Great's books, are very exposing, and then of course there's a bunch of documentaries on Amazon that are very compelling. But that's neither here nor there. But anyways, Points of Light, beautiful song. One thing that they don't tell you when you're trying to be in recovery, trying to be a better person and do the right thing and listen to your heart and be, in lack of other words, one with God, to experience Zen and clarity, is that it does make you a point of light. And that's all that takes in order to break the darkness. With that said, right, that sounds like a very wonderful sentiment. It also makes you a huge target. It's very easy. My dad used to talk about this when I watched Full Metal Jacket with him, that a sniper looks for some sort of cue, some sort of giveaway, some sort of tell in order to find their target. So remember that. that you become a target as well. And you know, your decision of whether you want to keep standing for that is up to you. And if you can live with yourself at night, you know, we only live once in this simulation, according to Elon, which is actually kind of entertaining, by the way, that the odds of this being a simulation are actually greater than what we, you know, certainly a lot greater than being that there's a God and creator and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, so that's a little heads up on that as far as being good and being a point of light in your community or this world, is that it makes it much easier to find you. Now, as far as that relates to the government, don't go to a fucking protest. That just puts you on a list. If you really want to protest, do something about it. Have a conversation across a kitchen table and plan your life, plan a different lifestyle. Realize, back to materialism, that materialism is what keeps you broke. And again, back to that watchdog argument that I made, that there are no watchdogs if everybody's busy getting a new TV and a new fucking laptop and a new computer and new J's and all that other shit. So you know, that's why many times the government will support stuff like that. They say it's good for the economy, but what it's really good for is rich people and the oppression of poor people. So because they think they are obligated to buy items and things like that. So you see this in Philip K. Dick's short stories as well. So he talks about that, and whether or not people pick up on it or not is up to them. So, but as far as I forget the name of the band. There's a song that's like, it's called, I think, it's not the danger, but the troubles or the problems of being pure at heart. So where you take everything at face value, and which, by the way, is a weird thing too to practice in the military. I separated from the military at 36 months. They had had enough of me, and I had had enough of them. So it was mutual. But I got out alive with a honorable discharge and some great stories. But the other story I wanted to tell you about was Christmas. So in the later years of my relationships with my in-laws, and also my parents, or my mom and my stepdad. So my dad wasn't really a part of my life for a lot of my life. But you know, I'd go over to my mom's, after my dad died, trying to, you know, do something with them. You know, people talk about, you know, how many times are you going to see your parents before they die, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I bought into that, and I wanted to try to make amends with her. And not that, you know, you try to forgive people as best you can and see if you can move on. Apparently my mom cannot help her crazy ass self. But I remember one time she had asked, let's get some pictures for Christmas. And I'm like, no, I don't want any pictures. I don't want any cameras. Number one, I was fat, really fat, and I didn't like the way that it looked. And so that was one thing. That was my vanity speaking. But the other part was that I wanted to be in the moment. I wanted to experience what Christmas is supposed to be about, right? Which is the celebration of Christ. And again, it's not really necessarily the celebration of Christ. Even Christ was like, you guys are idiots. You're getting this all wrong. It's about what he taught. It's not about him. The only reason why he reluctantly made it about him was because people couldn't understand. They were so attached to, again, the materialism and the world and the laws of the land and things like that, and they're basically their dogma. So the ideas that Christ taught were revolutionary to this day. You know, love thy neighbor, love thy enemy, that kind of stuff. But so I really wanted to just experience Christmas, which is the bonding of people. I didn't want to exchange presents or anything like that. And my sister and my mom, and you know, they said, don't bring any gifts. And I was like, okay, fine. And then, of course, at Christmas they have gifts for me, and I was like, ugh. I thought we agreed, you know, whatever. Again, those are two people that think that they know what's best for me. So, because I'm a dumb man, I don't know any better, right? So, but anyways, I don't talk to either one anymore. So it's fine. You don't need. Well, we talk about rattlesnakes. You don't need rattlesnakes in your life. But the main story I talk about as far as materialism and Christmas and the real meaning of, you know, celebrations like that. Celebrate our humanity, celebrate the amazing fact that we're in this tiny little planet in the middle of this huge ocean of nothingness. We're alive, we're conscious, we have a great society, and we could die tomorrow and we're not. And so I think I choose life, and I choose hope, and I choose I want the best thing for everybody. And so that that's what I choose. So rather than doom, gloom, and dismay, and negative stuff, as they say. But I remember a couple of Christmases that I had over at my in-laws, and it wasn't too bad, but I think what happened was they just got annoyed with me being too I don't want to say serious, but sort of just being in the moment, and not, I didn't want it to be about gifts. I wanted it to be about company, and I wanted it to be about family, and I wanted it, I had not been able to connect with my family on that. And so, of course I was trying with their family, and I had no idea that they were terrible, rotten people. I didn't know. I was trying to assume the best about them. And so, but anyways, the day before Christmas, I had stopped over at my father-in-law's to drop off a gift for Sherry, so that way it was under the tree. And I got approached by my father-in-law, and he said he didn't want me around anymore, which of course in hindsight is not the most Christian thing to do. But I basically yelled at him, not because I was mad about it, but because he was being a fool. And for whatever reason, he was making a great mistake. I think he was planning that he was going to break up my wife and I, and that he would have my wife all back to himself again, or something like that. The relationship that Sherry had with her dad and her family was very codependent, and they basically abused her, not in a physical way, but more of in a mental way and an emotional way. And that's one of the things that attracted me to her, was that she has heart, and she wants something different, but she didn't know how. And so when I met her, we sort of became this, dynamic duo, this team that could escape these dynasties together. And then that's what really started our adventure together in our marriage. So, but so I was asked not to come back, and for some reason they fully expected my wife to show back up. And so I let him have it with both barrels. I called him a fool. I said he was a stupid idiot, and I said, you're making a mistake. Stop. Don't do this. It had nothing to do with me. I immediately was like, this is not personal. This is, about them. I was insanely sad. I was very sad, because I knew that I was not able to experience Christmas with them. I was not able to love them in a very sort of, just being in their presence and appreciating that. But that's exactly what I was kicked out for. And I have a screenplay where I basically recreate this situation where I get kicked out of Christmas, or the main character gets kicked out of Christmas because he's not into drinking and he's not into presents. So, which of course is hilarious now in hindsight. But at the time it was like really confusing. And later I realized the stance of my in-laws, my father-in-law and his wife, which I guess is my stepmother-in-law. But they're people that live out of fear, and people that have a hard time with things that are different, and that's all I am to them. So I'm a threat to their control. I'm a threat to their way of life, and talk about being the system or the matrix or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not that. I'm the fly in the ointment. So I understand it better now, and that's part of the life and the heartbreak of being pure at heart. I want to be love, and I want to share life and affirming experiences with everyone, so that they can have a better life. If you follow that path, that is actually a selfish thing to do, but it's in the most sort of long shot, long bet way. I'm betting on people being good and people, loving one another. When all my self-help training points in that direction, and it resonates with my heart that we are all just different facets of the same creature, the same being. And so it only behooves us to love one another rather than put each other down and things like that. And really, materialism is the epitome of that. So it's sort of the, well, what else am I going to do with my money? And so I do understand that it's odd to do that with something that is a complete luxury item like woofers, but I think there's more to woofers than just materialism. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, which is that I offer an alternative to that materialism. I saw some guy earlier today on Facebook talking about how he loves when people badmouth Sundown because they can't afford it. It's like, wow, you're rich and arrogant too. I'm sure that's desirable to somebody. So, but that's what brands want you to think. They want you to think that you're better than somebody simply because of your purchase choices. And of course that creates teams, and that creates us versus them. And to me, that's the wrong path to go. I mean, really, when you look at a woofer, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't care what brand it is. It doesn't care, who made it or where it was made. It just does a job. And the idea behind it is, for me, is to enable your expression of music. Ooh, get that mosquito. Die. Yeah, not all things are pro-life. So, but anyways, I do both sides, by the way. So, and the nasal sit over here to cure it. But so that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit on materialism and my stance. So I hope that people better understand my intentions. So it's certainly not the most popular point of view, but I think it's one that's worth pursuing. And in the words of Frank Sinatra, who I do not like, by the way, his character, everything like that, but he, that song is beautiful about doing it his way, doing it my way. If you're not going to do it your way, whose way are you going to do it? And that's what you got to decide for yourself. Are you going to do what everybody else tells you? Are you going to try to make everyone else happy? Or are you going to go with what's in your heart? So, and what you'll find is that anytime you deny what's in your heart, you're going to be unhappy. I didn't make up that rule. That's just the way it is. So, and I want to respect both sides of that coin, which is that if your heart tells you to mass murder, a bunch of people, go for it. Because otherwise you're not going to be happy. So, but if you're going to defend one side of the coin, you have to defend both sides of the coin. So I'm not a fan of that version, but especially if I'm on the other end of that. But it's important to remember that it's important to protect the speech that you don't like and also the speech that you do like. So, but I'm going to go ahead and put these. I just use this as a model. I have two others that are getting made. Two go to Robert, and then one is a spare. So it's also as a backup in case one of them doesn't turn out. Then I have a spare that I can give Robert and still make my deadline. So, which is, by the way, today. Oopsie doodle. But wanted to make this video and just talk about that a little bit. I think it's a good, podcast subject. So this is today's podcast. I love you. I will talk to you later.